Hey guys, it's Quana back again with another review. So I'm sorry I'm late to the party, but I just finally got a chance to sit down and watch Insecure. I believe we're on episode 6, Lowkey done, and it's the day after the block party. So let's go ahead and get into it. Spoilers for the episode because I'm going to be recapping and reviewing and giving you my deep insights. So if you're interested, please do me a favor and hit the subscribe button so that you can make way to the channel again and again for more content. All right, so the episode opens with Issa, and she's laying in bed reflecting on the black party, and she can just hear, and she's just replaying that fight with Molly from last episode. And we have all been there when you have had a conflict with someone that you care about and you cannot get over it. And so it's just replaying on this loop in her head. And she tries to drown it out by going to social media. Sounds familiar. Most of us do the same thing. And she's trying to find out what the community thinks. And lo and behold, no one is really bringing up all of the drama that happened at the end of the block party, except for Shady Girl Reporter, who finally got her YouTube channel going. But everyone is just so excited. Everyone is telling her block party was bomb. You know, it was lit. We had a great time. I can't believe that we had this in our community. And that is just the kind of pick me up that she needed. And then she goes to her phone and she's got voicemail messages. Now, this is one thing that I love, hate about Insecure. They do such a good job of like building content to go into the content. And what I mean by that is the running series that they have playing for every season. And things like this, like these voicemail messages that I want to hear. Like she was switching off the voicemails and going to the next one. And I was like, dang, I want to hear more of that person, what they were going to say in that person. Like there was a voicemail from a mall and she cut it off, and I was like, I want them to release that kind of stuff. Like, if I don't know if that's literally how they wrote the scene or they just let them ad lib, but they need, like, I don't know if they're going to put that on the box set, but they need to put that on like the box set or put it on their YouTube, because it's one of my favorite things that they do for this show. So she's going about her day, and she's like, you know what, I gotta get myself together. She goes into her mirror, and we're getting a lot more mirror discussions and women in the mirror discussions this season, I think, than we've gotten in the past. I mean, there's literally one almost every episode right now, which I thought was kind of interesting. And she decides, you know what, it's Sunday, self-care Sunday. I'm gonna focus on me. I'm not gonna worry about Molly. That's yesterday's problem. Right now, we're gonna do me. And so I love it because she starts cleaning up. And now, although the music on the show is always bomb, all I kept thinking was Jill Scott. Woke up out of bed, took a shower, dressed, cleaned up my place. That's all I kept hearing, especially since we just had that versus battle with Jill Scott and Erykah Badu. She cleans up. She's feeling good. She got her house in order, which I'm like, to be a solo person living in one apartment and only having to clean up after yourself again. She made it seem so easy. She just put some clothes in a basket, wiped down, and she was done in like maybe an hour, and she got the rest of her day. And I just was like, if only, if only. Anyway, she finally gives a call over to Nathan, and Nathan is reassuring her. He's One thing I like about this scene is, again, the layering. We get layers here. Nathan is at the barbershop, so he's got his job back. He's cutting hair. He seems like he is, whatever he needed to do for his mental well-being, it seems like he's perhaps taking care of himself. He seems like he's on a good track. So she calls him, and he's like, no, I was glad to do that favor for you. That was not even a problem, and I don't think you're using me. And it was just the reassurance that she needed to find out that, you know, she wasn't a user, that was an acceptable exchange between friends. And you know, I was trying, pause, Zach Morris moment here. So I was really sitting there trying to think, because so many people are like Team Molly right now. And I was really sitting here trying to think, like, okay, are we judging Molly too harshly? And here's the deal. Issa and Molly are BFFs, supposedly. Molly and Andrew, that's New Bay. She's trying to establish a relationship. And she's trying to set boundaries. Now, the problem is she met Andrew through Issa. And I doubt that there was ever a conversation about ground rules with that. It's one thing when you meet someone and it's separate, but you met this person through your friend. So now he's part of friend group, and he's basically in that friend circle. In an ideal world, like I think about my husband, certain friends of mine that we consider family. If they were to say, hey, can we ask him to help us with such and such? I'm like, girl, please go ahead. But if it was someone outside of friend group, I would have a problem. And I think the problem is it's not that Molly's not allowed to have those boundaries, but it gets to the bigger question of why. Why do you feel the need for those boundaries if this is your girl and if you trust her? And so if you don't trust her and you're at this point, even though the relationship, he's not proposed to you, I don't think you done met his mom and daddy, you're putting him above her and y'all are not at that point yet. So that's, I think, the problem that I have with this whole Molly thing. I don't think that she's wrong to set those boundaries because relationships shift and change, but I think it's just too soon for that change to have happened, and it speaks to her relationship with Issa more than it does her relationship with Andrew. And she needs to realize that you can't call BS on Issa and not smell your own mess. Anywho, little shout out. I like the little cameos we got this episode. Ryan Davis popped up at the barbershop. I was like, oh, that's cute. But Nathan gave her the go ahead and was like, you're good. So anyway, Issa turns self-care Sunday into a do good for others Sunday. So she decides, she's going to the store. She's getting some wine. We later learned that she was getting the wine because she was going to go to like a little paint and sip class or whatever. I've been to those. They can be fun. You got to have the right people involved. You got to have the right circle involved. You can be with your boo, but they can go wrong. And this one, well, we're going to get to that later. So she goes buy some wine. There's this pregnant lady there. She's trying to get some people to like help her out with some groceries. And Issa's like, okay, you got a little basket. I see, you a little look like you 12 items or less. I got you. She rings up. We done got to like 157 or something like that. Pause. Zach Morris moment. What would you do in that situation if you decide you're going to help the next person in line and you thinking maybe they got $50 worth of stuff? Okay, I got you for $50. And the problem is Issa didn't really look at that cart. I looked at that cart. She had diapers and she had formula, which obviously there must be another kid in the picture because she was pregnant. So the diapers and formula, what you need with that just right now. You don't need that just yet. The baby ain't came yet. But she could have looked at the items. Formulas, $20-something, $20 to $30 out the gate. So she ain't looking in the cart to see what the girl had. But what would you do in that instance? Would you be like, should you just be upfront and be like, that's a little bit more than I'm comfortable with. How about I pick up a couple of the items for you? Or how about this? I can't get you all the way, but I got you for $50 on your order. But anyway, we live in a non-cash world, so you don't always know. And Issa runs her card, and her card is like, nope, you don't have that, Mom. Oh, this was so embarrassing to watch. It was so cringy, which shows us that Issa is still kind of feeling her way. She got it together, but she don't have it all the way together just yet. So she's still working on that, right? The girl tries to get shady and be like, oh, you know what? I'm going to learn a lesson from this. I'm going to let you go. And I'm just going to learn to, a lesson from this situation. So Issa goes ahead and pays for her wine, and she keeps it moving. She pulls out, and she sees this old man, and he's running, trying to catch a bus, and he misses his bus. So she decides to be a good Samaritan and give him a ride. Time out. we are in 2020. I want to know from the ladies in the comments, in 2020, even if it's an old man, do you give the old man a ride if you see him missing his bus? Because I am so nervous now, even to like stop and give somebody money if I'm by myself. If my husband is not with me, I'm definitely not like trying to give you something. I bought this homeless man some Chick-fil-A, and he was in the median, and it was like it's a like a 6 lane, three one direction, three one direction, something like that. And so I had to whip around and get over so I could be right there. I was gonna like hand it out the window. Child, by the time I did all the went to go get the food, came back around, whipped, he was gone. So we had extra food that weekend. But do you pull over and give the man a ride? I don't know that would be me. I would have to be like, can I call you? I'm sorry, I'm hitting this thing. I'm probably popping in y'all's ear. When you forget you got a mic on. I probably would be like, can I call you an Uber? But I guess since she's a Lyft driver, she was like, I already know how to do this. But he sat up front with her. And I'm like, that made me feel a little uncomfortable. Anyway, oh boy, and I kept trying to think of who was. I was like, where do I know this guy from? But he's the granddaddy on All American, and I was like, I had to do some digging. Anyway, he is a hot mess. That whole scene was just like, I was like, oh my gosh, just let him out the car. He gonna get y'all killed. Because he was like, freeze, stop, yelling, talking all kinds of nonsense. It was funny to see. She finally gets to the wine and sip or the paint and sip, and sees these three girls there. One of them is Miss Kyla Pratt herself. And it's funny when you see people on TV shows, even though I knew I wasn't that much older than Kyla Pratt when she was coming up. I mean, I am almost 5 years older than her. But in your mind, people are they're still like frozen in the age that they were when you saw them, And I was like, oh, she a whole grown woman out here drinking and cussing and talking about male genitalia. But the girls have a good time. They're kikiing, having fun. And it's nice to see Issa relax. And this was part of the clip that we saw in the trailer. And so they got me because she ends up having a good time with the girls. And so they're going to go to the bar, have a good time. They're still over there. They're kiki and having a good time. They go to the bathroom. Issa happens to go with. She talking to the girl in the stall. All of a sudden it gets quiet. Old girl didn't flush, didn't wash her hands. Next thing you know, she gone. Issa walks out. They have bounced. They have done a dive and dash on Issa. It didn't hit her to it. And now she has to pay for everybody's food and drinks. Which I kept wondering because they showed her card decline and she didn't have another card, or I don't know how did she pay for it? Like, that's what I kept thinking, was that she had to go in the kitchen and wash dishes. Anyway, next thing we know, Issa's in the car. She's trying to trail after them. We see her roll up. She get out the car. She start trailing after them. She take that paint in it and she break it up over that girl's head. But of course, it was just a dream sequence. But I was excited for a second. I was about to be like, get it. Girl, they played us big time. So now she is in this space where she's had this day. She's tried to do good for others. 3 groups of people now that she tried to befriend or do good for, and it has all backfired. And she needs to turn somewhere. So who does she go to? She goes to her mama. And can we just give an applause for Wendy Raquel Robinson? She is an OG in these streets. She deserves her flowers. She is a great comedic actress. We love to see her. And it was just such a nice moment because Issa needed someone to fall apart with. And who better than your mom? Your mom is there to pick you up, put you together, see your vulnerability. And you know that in most cases, if you have a healthy relationship with your mom, you can fall apart and they will never use it against you. And so she falls apart with her mom. They have a really great rapport. And Issa is then able to go back home, and there's kind of a catharsis that happens where she's releasing all that pain, all that anger from what's happened, and probably much longer than that. She gets up with Kelly at some point. I can't remember if this was before she calls her mom or after, but she finally gets up with Kelly, who's been trying to call her, and Kelly's like, hey, have you spoken to Molly yet? You need to call and make peace with this. And she's like, I don't want to be the first person. And there does have to, the first person to be like forgiveness, mending bridges, all of that. But at what point do you say, I can't be the person to always extend the olive branch? Someone else needs to come and offer me peace, and open that door as well. And even if Issa was wrong, I think in this moment, because this was her event, and on the level of importance in this moment, Issa's event, which was the first, not just for her, this neighborhood, everything, trumped Molly's frustration. Molly could have held on to that frustration, and she could have pulled her to the side, and she didn't have to take it to that level and confront her out in front of everyone like that. But she was just hurt. She was acting out of anger because she was looking for a reason to snap the whole time. Right? So I think why I understand Kelly, I'm Kelly. I always want my friends to have peace. Growing up, if in my friend group, if there was beef between one another, I'm always trying to bridge it, trying to fix it. But sometimes people have to fall apart and figure their way back. And sometimes you do have to be the bridge. I've been that bridge many a times, but sometimes you have to just be there for the other person and let them share their pain. And you can't just go immediately to like mend fences. You need to offer to say, hey, what happened here? Share your pain with me. Anywho, she goes home. She smokes a joint, gets relaxed. She's like, you know what? I don't got nothing to eat. So she goes down to the Ethiopian spot, which we know is important in their friendship because it's where Molly took Issa for her birthday the very first season. She sees Molly is in there, and she doesn't go in. She doesn't confront her. And so that's how the episode ends. So we know that next week we're going to get an episode with Molly. So let's unpack some of what we got when we talk about Molly and Issa's relationship. I think that in Issa's decision to not go in there and like confront, I think it was smart, because what would have happened if she had gone in there would have been playful banter, right? It would have been like a, hey girl, oh, I see you came over here, what you doing? And then it would have been, you're in public, and it would have been just lip service. It would have been just little, hey, how's the weather? Small type talk. And that stuff can be such a almost like a covering. Like it doesn't really heal the wound. It just kind of covers it up. It's not any medicine for it. And it can be so deceptive. That's the word I was looking for. Deceptive, because you can have small talk with people and it makes them think that you're okay with how they've wronged you. And sometimes you can fool yourself into believing that you're okay from how they wronged you, and no real healing has taken place. And so I'm glad that she did not go into the restaurant to see Molly at that point, because I don't think, you almost have to have a game plan when you're going to do something like that. The other thing I thought was important was the episode's title, Lowkey Done. I took it at first when I saw that was the title to be like, I'm done with Molly. But then I thought about, this episode didn't center as much around Molly and Issa as it did around Issa's coming to terms with her own identity. She chooses to reach out to these people because Molly shames her into making her feel like she is a user, and she wants evidence that she is capable of like doing selfless acts for other people, which she does throughout this episode. We see that. But there have been tons of times when Issa has tried to help others and has done selfless acts. And so But here's the biggest takeaway I got. It wasn't just that she tried to do selfless acts. In each of those actions, other people were trying to use her. So you have the mother, and let's just on its face assume every person, well, except for the last three, we know that they didn't have good intentions, but let's say that lady in the store actually didn't go in planning to scam anybody. We know that she kind of did, but let's just say she was really in need. Well, when you have a need, you ask for help. And in asking for help, in a way, you might be using someone if you have no means to reciprocate the help that they give you. And that in this scenario with the older gentleman, she gives him a ride to go reunite with his son. It seems like he didn't have any way to reciprocate, and in fact, he took advantage of her time. Now we know some of this is the ramblings of like an older gentleman, and it seemed like he was a bit like out of his mind, at the beginning, like maybe he was dealing with some kind of like schizophrenia or something. Again, he was using her because he had no way to reciprocate for her, her act of kindness and her act of charity. And then of course we definitely saw the ladies at the end ended up using her. So in those scenarios, what they've given us is a picture of extreme examples of someone being used versus what Molly has said to Issa. You used, you're a user. You used Andrew to help you in your career. But we all use people to help us in our career. If you are a student and you ask your professor or your teacher for a letter of recommendation, you're using them, especially if you have no means of reciprocating, of saying thank you in a genuine way. You're assuming that they have the time, the energy, or even the relationship at times that you may not have actually built up with them worthy of that documentation. Now, it's one thing if you've been a stellar student and you've gone out of your way to show that teacher that you are taking in what they've said and that you're really being an ideal student. But there have been plenty of times when students have asked me for letters of recommendation and I had to think about I'm helping them get to a next step. Regardless of how they were with me, they might be better with someone else, so I'm going to help them. But yeah, that's an act that could be considered using. You ask someone for a recommendation, you're using them. You ask somebody for a contact, you're using them. You ask somebody to co-sign on something with you, you're using them. If you have no means of reciprocating in equal measure the act that you're asking for help with, it can be considered using. And so they've given us these two examples, or these different examples of what it looks like to use someone. And I think they're setting us up to this idea that like Issa can maybe finally feel validated, like she's not that. And so maybe there's nothing wrong with having a network. Maybe the way she went about it wasn't the right way. But I think it's also the shock that her friend, who up at that point, she had not asked her friend for any help. And her friend always had the means to help by way of Andrew, to help her. But she chose not to reach out to her and ask her for help because she didn't want to use her. And she didn't want to use that connection, even though in the world and in the world of other people, that's how things get done. So I thought this episode was very funny, more lighthearted than we've seen, although the breakdown that she had with her mom was like, it tugged on my heartstrings a lot. But I thought it was very necessary to see Issa's growth, to have her see her own be validated in her own actions. And I'm going to be frank. I don't know that I really care about Molly and Andrew going to Mexico next episode, because is she going to see, and we don't know because we haven't seen, it's just a trailer, but I've not seen anything in the trailer to make me think that, is she going to have an epiphany about her relationship with Issa, and that she crossed some lines as well because she chose not to be truthful and honest in her feelings with her friend. So as she's building this relationship with Andrew, how you treat one person can be an indication of how you treat others. And so she has used Andrew, has abused him at times. Is she going to do the same thing if she doesn't make amends with Issa. I don't know. So I thought this episode was good. Not the best episode. Obviously, I love the episode before. I love the block party episode. I thought this episode was good. A lot of people complained about the slowness of it. They felt like it was slow. I think because they really want to get into the fixing of it, but that's not how life works. And it might be months before we see Issa and Molly back together. There might be a whole time jump before we see them rectify things. So I thought this was a good episode. I love that she is communicating with Nathan. I don't know if Nathan's just going to be a friend. You know, he might not be bae. Issa might not end up with a bae. Issa may end up alone, and she may be completely okay with that. So I'm not going to rush to say that I want him to be bae, but I like that they are showing that growth with him. I hope that we get an episode about his mental well-being, because I think that the fans have been talking about that since last season, and we all noticed those qualities that he had and want to know more. I really hope that we get something about Tiffany and her postpartum depression, and Kelly, and stop getting these quick little snips. I want more of Kelly. I keep saying it every week. I want more of Kelly. Give us more Kelly, Issa. But yeah, I thought it was a good episode. I thought it was solid. I liked the cameos in it. And I mean, I'm low-key done with Molly for right now. Deuces. All right, guys, so those were my thoughts on this episode. Tell me down below in the comments what you thought. Do you agree? Do you disagree with anything that I said here today? If you want more content like this, please do me a favor. Please hit the like and subscribe button. It does me so good, so good. I want to see us get to 50. We're almost at 50, so hopefully we can get there. And until next time, toodles.